this wonderful interview that we are going to do today.
Yes, for the first time.
For the first time ever. This is the first time we ever spoke to one another.
Yeah.
I've never
Who
looked
are
like
you?
this
Who am
before.
I?
So I'm gonna ask a couple of questions. Feel free to not answer to some of them if you don't want to. That's totally fine.
That would seem rude.
We respect boundaries around here, okay? So
okay.
so that's very important. Let's start with the first question. How about you tell us about yourself and who are you in a nutshell?
I'm not going to do, oh, this is me in a nutshell. I'm Hawkes. Hawks, as I keep on having to say here in America, because no one understands me when I say that. I'm Hawkes. I'm the narrative director for Project L. I've been working at Riot in a variety of roles for nearly 10 years now. And I happen to have been the person they were silly enough to ask to write a comic that was called Katarina. You may have heard of her when you look in a mirror this morning.
It doesn't ring a bell. I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, no idea who she is. Congratulations on the decade of doing magnificent work and
Thank you.
bestowing us with delicious food that we have craved and have been craving for so many years. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone when I say that Katarina comic has ignited something within each and every one of us that we really
Okay, hopefully not anger.
No, not at all. My second question is why you decided to make a comic.
The wonderful Riot Forge folks, initially with Mary Gumport, who was on the comics team at the time, just said, "Hey, there's this thing being made, and we might like to have a comic to go along with it." And as I checked my watch, that I'm not wearing, that it was for a thing called the Mage Seeker, it turned out. And so we were asked to all the narrative folks were just asked to pitch ideas and also to resolve a certain dead monarch and what happened there.
Right.
So yeah, that was essentially the ask, and then I got my own sort of being my bonnet about a certain lethal redhead, not misfortune, and then and so I just pitched the story, and the folks were like, "Cool. We like this. Let's do that thing."
What was the process of writing the script?
I've written comics before, but the joys of the joys, of course, of anything is if you don't use the muscle, it atrophies. And I'd done some, but I mean, I'd never had a comic just published that I'd written start to scratch. I've edited some and worked sort of in the background on some, which I'm more used to doing. I'm more of a background kind of guy. So Molly Mahan and Sabrina and Mary Gumpert, they really helped me in sort of helping smack me around the back of my head and remind me about doing certain things and educating me on good format and good just doing awesome jobs as editors in that genre. So there was a lot of back and forth on, okay, I'm doing my usual thing, which is trying to shove 25 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag, which is my way of writing. And they go, no. And so no, it was just a lot of the way it always is. It's a lot of a lot of collaboration, a lot of sort of reaching out. I'd go away and go, oh, I like all this stuff, and then he'd come back and people go, cool. However, so yeah, a lot of back and forth, a lot of revisions. The revisions got, which was good. The revisions got less with each issue, which was good. It's one of those where if they start getting more with each issue, there might be a problem. So there was a lot of, hey, who is Katarina? What is it I think's wonderful about her? What are the things that players have wondered about her maybe, and stuff that I've had floating around my head for I don't know 10 years. And what can I again cram into 5 issues? So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's find what I wanted to say about her, and play that out in a way that, of course, you gotta have her being cool. She's a badass. She's great at what she does, and really getting into that sort of what does it mean to be a Noxian assassin, because a Noxian assassin's a bit different to just, it's quite an honorable profession.
Yes.
In Noxus.
Yes.
And in my head, Katarina represents a side of Noxus in the same way that Darius does. But Darius is more in your face, shall we say. And more sort of on a different scale to Kat. But there's definitely that Darius has all this might and this sort of battlefield's wisdom, and Katarina has this wonderful sort of like breadth of knowledge and improvisation about her, and getting that across, and then trying to show what that says about Noxus. What does it mean to be somebody who doesn't? It's not just a job; it's like her vocation. It's the thing she believes in, and then family.
Of course.
Can often make things complicated.
Of course.
So yeah. That was essentially just trying to drive to who Kat is and what's the most fun way you can have in expressing that, and have her bounce off interesting people around it too. We of course had IPS helping us, our IP strategy group, and so we'd go to them, and go, hey, so Katarina and those daggers, are they, special? And it was like, well, nothing officially. And it's like, cool. Can we make them that way? And so, like, we got a lot of help from across Riot with various folks and various teams. As I said, IP strategy really, really helped us with figuring a bunch of stuff out and so on. Wonderful editors who I've called out. But yeah, loads of people and over a long period of time. And then, of course, we had Rebecca Isaacs doing stonking work on that book.
Oh my god!
And Marissa, the colors and just So yeah, it would be I'd write something stupid, and then the editors would go, okay, but what about this? And then eventually Rebecca would send in the pencils and the inks, which she did both of. It wasn't even like a back and forth. Oh, could you do this? Could you do that? That was how it looked when it first came through, and I'm like.
And it was Rebecca's first. Like, she's not a writer.
No,
she's not a writer. She's never worked on any of Riot's IPs. She just came in, nailed everything, and left.
It was. Sabrina and Molly helped providing with reference materials, of course, but she just took it and then melded it and then came out with something new.
That's insane.
Like, just I may or may not have in the past have worked on some stuff that included places that never got to players because for various reasons. But like, I know for a fact that trying to do an establishing shot of like Noxus in a standard American comic book panel is tough.
It is.
Like, it's tough to make it look good. And again, it just came through. It's like, perfect, great. And then the ď'Amasia one, which is even more difficult. It's like, oh, that looks great. Oh yeah, can we have yeah, Katarina's walking through these giant gates, and there's a silver wing perched on top with a rider. And also giant statue of the king, because I essentially wanted to say something about killing the king, her target.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. At that point, and it all came in. It's like, this is just great. And so no, she's absolutely
phenomenal work.
Amazing.
I like when it's just like it's not just like the fact that it looks beautiful, right? And like everything about like the way that she paneled everything, and it's the it's the understanding of the world, and like it's all this little nuances that she just got it.
It's again to make it feel like a place that looks lived in, but still awe-inspiring,
Right.
and fit there into like
Yeah,
a
in a
box like
tiny little
that.
box,
It's
yeah.
just so yeah. It would be I'd write something stupid, and then the editors would go, okay, but what about this? And then eventually Rebecca would send in the pencils and the inks, which she did both of, and I'd weep, and then yeah, so that happened.
It's understandable because I also wept. I screamed, I ran around my apartment, I was hyperventilating.
Yeah,
And
I did that. I did that when the entrance of a certain zaddy
yes,
in yes, a
that.
grey-haired silver haired fox that he is. When I wrote him, I think I described it's a double page splash, and it was something like Swain turns up and he's there and he's flaring up with his power, and it's so heavy metal that it deserves to be sprayed on the side of a van in the 80s.
Oh, that's
and
actually
then-
a perfect description for that.
and so then that was the big sort of like there was a couple of like in each issue you try and have a big visual moment, at least one, but that was going to be the big visual moment for the run.
Yeah.
And so I was like really like it's very challenging for an artist to just like run with it. But I when I first saw the inks, it was like, yep, that's it.
Is there a way for us to actually get a poster like of them to like release it as like I want it as a canvas. I want this in my bedroom.
I'm going to do that for myself.
No way!
Like I'm gonna get one made from it, and that one, and also there's the oh no, is it issue 4 with the cover that Rebecca did, the Katarina sort of curled up on the floor after she's fallen and the broken.
Yes.
It's the framing and the color. It's beautiful. So that, and also, yeah, I want to do that. But when it comes down to that, I don't make those decisions.
Damn it.
I just hang around and say, yeah, that's cool.
Can you send me like a really high resolution PDF of that so I could like make it myself?
Right now, there's the wonderful 𝗹𝗀cie who is going to be watching this, and I'm not going to tell her in advance, but I maybe. I don't know.
You said that it was important for you to really love the characters and write them in a way that you really, really like them, so others might feel that way too. And I think you actually did an amazing job with that, especially with the way that you introduced Drann into the story, a character that no one knew who she was. And also like bringing a new face into a story is always kind of like it's like a slippery slope, and you don't know whether or not that's gonna work. Yet you managed to capture her. At first, like in the first couple of in the first couple of chapters, she was just like she was just a tea girl. She was just walking around pouring tea.
It's the sort of game writer in me is the replayability. It's that. And also, just it's just fun anyway. Is that if you were to read back through, then this now seems different to before.
Yes.
So like having Drann there going like and Kat's like thanks for everything. It's like you don't have to. And your take on that cracked me up, by the way. But and everyone else. But no, it was like. And it's a choice because of course we have this huge cast. So if you you often need a character for Kat to talk with.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of them around. And there were ones very specifically I wanted to, of course, when it comes down to her adoptive brother and others, to have conversations with. But it was also for you to connect with Kat and make her human, was you've got friends and people who respect her highly. And if you've got somebody who's awesome, who loves Kat, then you're also more likely to think Kat's awesome
and
too.
who's a badass.
So,
like, why would Katarina hang out with her in the first place if she wasn't a badass herself?
yeah. Well, it's just it's somebody who, like my dream of writing a Kat and Drann road trip series, like sort of just
Hawks, I'll pay so much money for that to happen.
Me too. So no, it's just when you can start coming up with characters who bounce off and show aspects and allow, especially with Kat, someone she could be vulnerable around. Because it's just really important. That I wanted to show her being strong by being vulnerable. When some around her couldn't.
Right.
And that's part of what makes her heroic.
Yeah.
And on a more sort of further along a path than say, I don't know, a certain sharp-knifed brother of hers. So having a character that she could bounce off of, that you could go, hey, they've got a history, expands Kat as well with her history, and what's this about, and so on. And of course, you don't have to answer all that; you just have to hint towards it.
Right.
And of course, I've got all that in my head, but you don't need to put all that on the page. You just have to imply. So yeah, no, I kind of fell in love with Drann way too much.
Yeah.
And
I
let's just say I put a bit more of her in there than I originally intended.
She's just a part of Katarina's life that we will never be able to see her without. Like, it's just, it was such a fresh breath of air to see this character that I originally disliked so much. I love Noxus.
I know.
I love Noxus. I love everyone in Noxus. But with Katarina, I had a beef because
I know. It was literally one of my I'll know if this was successful if Dinka likes Kat at the end of it. Because that's quite the barometer. And I'm like, but if I could make her have some sort of empathy towards Lux.
Yo!
Now it's performing miracles.
Okay, hear me out. We'll get to that part. We're definitely gonna get to that part. But with Katarina and Drann, first of all, it was absolutely uncanny the way that I actually look like Drann, which we have already established that I'm not Drann. Drann was not based off of me, even though I think that it's a total lie. Because
sorry.
I want a whole movie about Katarina and Drann and what happened in the background. Why didn't she want to use her magic? What will happen now that she did use her magic? Like,
you
all
picked up on that, didn't you?
All of these questions, you know.
This is where I'm all sort of blowing smoke your way now, which is a strange saying. You spotted the thing with the flowers.
Yes.
In the whole Vlad thing.
Yes.
Which I was like, look at me, I'm being all subtle. But no, yeah. Drann has a past.
Oof.
And yeah, she doesn't like to, as Kat says, she doesn't like to use her magic.
But she did.
And it's not just she doesn't.
She didn't
in
just
my head,
use it.
Yeah, in my head, it's purely in my head. This is just like, again, unfortunately with me, I can't just write what's there. I've got to write everything else that may ever possibly be. And so in my head, it's like, oh, she didn't just not want to. She's really not supposed to. So when she did that for Kat, that's a big nasty ball to start rolling. But no. Again, this is all just
Headcanon.
that I don't sleep at night thinking about. Get to put a Teashop.
The Teashop
in
was
Noxus.
so good.
Beautiful
it was
in it.
Such a great idea. I wouldn't because to me, like when I think about Noxus, I think like pubs, I think like like underground places. But then you kind of like forget about Mortora, right? Like Mortora with all the rich people and shit. Like they probably have some stuff as well. So having this Ionian looking tea house.
The thing is about Noxus is that when it lives up to its ideals, and let's face it, that's not always. Or maybe often. When it does, it's supposed to be a place that is a safe haven for all cultures.
Right.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it sells itself as anyway. So having it was just like I've never seen somewhere that we've done really that I'd like to just hang out in Noxus.
Yeah.
Just like, and it's especially something that had some refinement to it.
Mm-hmm.
And was sort of like, like some of the concept work that folks have done for years on Noxus and the sort of the sleeker look and the LOR like the Legends of Runeterra, the Crimson Circle sort of cards, and I was like, when I saw that, I was like, oh, Noxus 90210, yes please. So like just showing a bit more a slightly different flavor, and also wanting Drann to be somebody who's like just swagger. Who's just like, she's so connected and she's got, all the best stuff. And she's not going to have some dumps.
Do we know where she's from? Is she originally from Noxus or did she come from a different place?
I in my head, I have thoughts, shall we say. I think she's someone who, what can I say? Yeah.
That was a good question, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Stop it. No, what I'd say is I'd say that she's someone whose abilities may have been spotted, and someone who was seen as who could rise into Noxus. Rather than being born in the middle of the city, sort of thing. So that's, again, this is purely just headcanon. It's not, this is official Riot canon. It's not at all. It's just simply me going, okay, what do I think, how do I think she came to be, and what sort of stuff. So then if anybody does want to do anything with her later, it's there, but it's also just how can you add some flavor and some texture to her.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to sort of have all that in your head so it just comes out naturally rather than you just trying to figure it out.
Right. With the amount of characters and different IPs that you had to work with, how did you manage to keep track of all the details and like maintain the consistency throughout the series and story?
Yeah, editors are great. I recommend them. And that's not because I'm one usually. No, it really was a case of Mary initially, but then Molly and Sabrina just really keeping, and it'd be down to, because I'm so sort of dazed and confused, I had to be like, so what? Where are we at this point? Because
the girls really nailed it. The girls really nailed it.
I've been overdoing my day job, and now I'm coming back to this and going, what was the thing? And then as we do that, and then Molly and Sabrina would talk to IPS again, as I said again. And I talk to the liaison I work with the most, Danny Coates, because for my day job, that I talk, and we just like, figure out details, what are the things, and then of course the script gets sent out to various folks for feedback, and they'd come back with, is this, does this actually happen here? And I'd be like, Good point. Does this actually happen here? So yeah, it's a lot of teamwork. It's a lot of like editors really making sure that I'm not wandering off into a field and bumping into cows, be they on hooks or not.
What was your biggest challenge in making this series?
Because it's over such a period of time, not rewriting the thing constantly. When you know, because it needs to go through certain stages at certain times, and there's always that. But I could change just this, and could I fit that in, and could I do that as well? And then that's how you get a 45 issue book and not 5, which is what I was making. I genuinely love the IP, love it. I've worked on it for a long time now, and I've had my little bit contributions here and there. But my job's mainly to help others like flourish and bring these characters to life to players. So it was a case of I want to do something that is gonna make people who love Kat go, good, I don't hate you. Well, more importantly, good, this is a character I can be proud to read a story about. And knowing that and being 3 years away from when when it's actually gonna come out, like that sort of constantly in your head, is this gonna show her in the light that I think she deserves to be in? And more importantly, is it going to show her and Talon, even though I'm going to make some choices that aren't going to make some people happy? And Marcus, who you know, we'd never seen before.
Right.
So me doing a description, going like, you know, can we make him a ginger?
That would make
sense. All that sort of stuff.
That's the thing.
Well, yeah,
like,
you just look at Kat and go,
yeah.
I like the idea of a badass ginger assassin.
Finally.
In his like, you know, in his middle years. So no, it was mainly about, it was making sure that it was going to hit the notes that I felt made it like deserve to be a chapter in Kat's life for players who love her, and not really knowing how it's going to hit for a long time. Having something and then not being able to get immediate sort of feedback with players. And there's a lot of course, people at Riot that I get to share with and they can help. But how is it going to pay off? And are people actually going to like it? And I care if people like it, and I care if I'm doing justice to the character and the world and all the rest of it. And that's the thing that you just hope works.
What did you enjoy the most in making it, the series?
Anytime I can just sit with the characters and just work with them. Because, you know, there's a part of you that is, especially me, because I'm, you know, troubled. No, when it's like you're talking with them in your head and you're having these conversations and you're trying to put yourself in their place and just go through, and then you find something that feels like juicy. You know, something that makes you go, oh yeah, that's them, and that's what they'd say, or that's what, you know. So it's all of that, and also just talking with folks who love, who also love the characters, and pitching and going back and forth on stuff like a writer's room or just a story room. So because not always just writers in there. It's so good. It's so much fun. And I've got the incredible privilege of working and I have over my time at Riot some just batshit crazy talented bloody warlock geniuses who I try to keep up with. And so all of that, just to began to be creative, is wonderful. It's just, you know, I mean, I'm creative all the time in my job, and I love what I do. But when it's literally, I'm going to just write and then and of course writing is not just this bit or this bit, mainly this bit. It's all of the thinking and all of the sort of building in your head and with others what this is going to do, and then learning more and more my craft when it comes down to the genre, the medium. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Mary. Then yeah, no, it's just great because it's you're building muscle and you're learning and growing. But yeah, I love work. I just happen, fortunately, to love League and the IP, so I get to play with, like, you know, my favorite people in my head.
What did you want to convey to your readers through the series?
I wanted to get across again how much Kat has value as a character, how interesting she can be, but also how interesting everyone can be. In, you know, I think Lux is interesting. I think Lux is interesting. I think Swain. I mean, of course, Swain's interesting. He's Swain.
Period.
He's so Swain.
He's so Swain.
Kat came. The idea for Kat came from something that did for Swain that never actually happened.
Oh.
And it was essentially it was a conversation between the two of them, and they're walking down the street, and Kat's walking down the street, and it was just like, what would we like if you're in a Noxus street and Katarina walks by?
Right.
What's the reaction? Because it's not like, you know, she's a secret. She's an assassin, and people know it.
Yeah.
Because, yay, she's our assassin.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing because it's Noxus, and that's kind of weird.
Patriotic assassin.
Yeah, as I put it, she's someone who helps people fall on their sword when they don't know they need to.
Yeah.
Is how she deals with internal, like that's the whole idea of her the second person she kills in the first issue. So it's that idea of what makes each of these people feel alive, because I want everybody to feel this world's alive. And just, hey, that was fun, and I feel like the characters that I have invested in have been treated correctly, they live up to the people who love them. Because that's, as a old friend and mentor called 𝗳𝗶𝘀cie, who was at Riot, said, you stick to the core themes and you do no harm. Every time that you work on the IP, you do no harm. And that's always something that springs around my mind. So that's the minimum. And hopefully it's do no harm, and also, by the way, this is great.
So was one of the ideas that, let's say, ended up being scrapped from the post-production?
Jaredan lived at one point.
Oh! At some point you wanted to keep him alive? Okay.
I went back and forward because the whole thing, Jaredan comes from the Lux comic. And what happened was John O'Brien, again, lovely man, he reached out to me and goes, hey, there's a character in this, and I was wondering if we could use your name, because Jaredan's my name I've been using for, like, God, I'm old, 25 years online now.
Okay.
And so he's like, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not really a fan of doing that sort of thing. And he's like, don't worry, he's affable and stupid. And I went, oh, that's all right then. So as pitched the Katarina comic, and I'm going back through the Lux comic to sort of figure out the sort of ins and the things to be around the corner from, in where Kat is and stuff's going on in the Lux comic, and oh, she's just over here. You just can't see her. Then I got to Jaredan. It's like, so Jaredan lets Lux into this highly sensitive library full of magical books and
In
stuff.
the Lux comic, yeah.
And I kind of went, oh shit, he'd be really good as a spy, wouldn't he? Like, essentially, he's essentially delivering everything that everything Lux, well, you know, Stylus needs to Lux, the sympathetic, you know, person to him, and giving like terrible knowledge that should not be shared. That she just goes, oh, I'm this, and he goes, yeah, go right ahead. So what if Jaredan was actually a bastard, and this was all intentional,
right?
And then as soon as I reached out to John, I went, oh shit, I think might make Jaredan cool, and I don't want to do that. so I was like, okay, but it really works, and I really like the idea of like, because it was going to be Marcus was going to have been in that's where he's been. Like, what's the mystery? He's been faked his death. He's been in Demacia undercover, learning all about them, setting things up for someone. And then so that just felt he's not going to be there on his own. And damn it, this works really well. So I promised myself that if I was going to use a character that was named after me, kinda, he was a corpse by the end of that book. There's no way that I'm going to be so sort of like come off so egotistical as have, hey, he's all handsome and stuff, which by the way, that was not my fault. That as a joke, I sent I think it was Sabrina or Molly sent him. They said, oh, what should he look like? Right. And as a joke, I sent them a passport photo of me when I was like 21. And they sent that to Rebecca, and I didn't know they'd done that. So when the book, the first pencils came back, and Jared, I'm like, oh, shit. So no, I was having real fun with him, and there was parts where the structure was slightly different, and there was going to be a bit more. Like at one point, there was going to be a part where after Katarina's faced Talon and left him displeased in an ocular fashion, there was a scene where Jaredan turns up to get him out of the city and set up going to Shurima to Mom. But it just didn't like it was taking up too much room, and we needed to clip along. And so I think it was Molly who said, you could just cut that, you know. Like, but yeah, you're right. Okay. And so yeah,
to the rescue.
Yes. Yeah, he was like, oh look, I've miscounted how many pages there are in this.
I'm just happy that eventually Jaredan died because it was a really good ending, because if he was kept alive, we wouldn't know, like, the whole like him reading this like secret letter, and we find out about like Talon and the fact that he is for some reason in Shurima with a black rose. I mean, why would he be there when
what do you mean black rose? I have no idea what I have no idea what these words mean. What?
I mean, why would the Black Rose care whether you're like whether Talon returns to Shurima or not?
I've no idea, Mom. Killing him off made me feel better about myself. It was just like, no, I'm not trying to set him up as somebody to be in the IP, because that would be me being awful. But also, it was just a case of you need a finality, especially with the type of storytelling, which is essentially setting Kat up to be someone of importance for Noxus. That is, and I struggle with writing stuff that just goes bump. It needs to feel like it's within something around it. And so having it be, and again, I needed to show Kat being, no, she is that badass. Yeah. She really is. So he's hidden for months. I'm gonna get you. I'm the biggest, baddest assassin going. I've got my magical candle and my magical scroll, and and I can read what's going on. Ha ha.
Perfect.
Like, you know, and it had to be as remote as possible. So I wanted it in the Freljord, because it's like, you know, who's going to find him in the Freljord? I'll tell you who's going to find him in the Freljord.
I honestly didn't expect that. To see Katarina, like, dressed up in all those, like, robes and furs and shit, and she's, like, she's there, and she just killed him while he was reading his letter, and especially when he was, like, in the middle of his own monologue about how, like, oh yeah, I'm the one who controls the fate, blah, 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 and then he gets killed.
I love a good sudden end to a monologue.
So good. So good.
Like, I felt okay with it because he's doing it and no one else is around. He thinks if he was doing it in like an eye shall, you know what I mean? Then I feel a bit. But no, he's like, I'm talking to myself and I'm so pompous and I'm such an ass. Yes. And now I'm dead. And it was kind of a callback to the first issue when she walks away from Rush.
Right.
After he pissed her off, so she let him. She let him like suffer a bit before allowing him to die.
As she should. Yeah. Some said that the feelings Katarina developed for Garen were pretty rushed. Could you tell us exactly what is it that she found in him?
It was really fascinating to see how folks reacted. Like I've had mixed sort of like signals even around the idea of Kat and Garen for years. Like literally 7 years ago, I was on a board and somebody was going to town on me. Like, you're just trying to do another Romeo and Juliet. And I'm like, I taught Romeo and Juliet for 10 years when I was a teacher. And believe me, I don't want to do that. And also Romeo and Juliet isn't Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is a story about two kids who didn't know any better and their families were complete idiots. And allowed them to, like, you know, do all this. But anyway, I digress. Folks got very like, oh my God, like they're running down the aisle. You know what I mean? And all this sort of stuff. And it was like, the idea is that Kat has been overthinking everything. And there's this constant need to work out every angle and what could happen. And I have no idea what that feels like. So like, all that's happening is she's there with Drann. And Drann's trying to get her to focus. And Drann knows her so well, even though she's not saying anything, she knows that she's thinking through stuff and trying to work stuff out. And she can feel that the magic's not connecting here. This isn't right. So she's like, stop it. Just think back to where you just connected, where you didn't think about anything. Right? Yeah. So Kat is like, and so she clears her head. And what she goes back to is the fight with Garen. So in that fight with Garen, she's up against somebody who is on her level, and that doesn't happen often. Okay. And same for him. At one point, there was going to be a bit where you got what Garen was thinking and what she was thinking at the same time, and it would have been a lot of mirror stuff, but it got really confusing, and Molly was like, yeah, that's getting really confusing. I'm like, bah! Yeah, you But the idea is that in that moment when they fight, itchy and scratchy show, they get to a point where they're equals, and there's a definite like just stop, and then what they think is Lux goes boom in the background, and they turn, and they're both thinking
about Lux,
of concern of Lux, and that's a moment where they're both completely on the same page. And she's not thinking. All she's done is in that moment, and it's that kind of thing where it's like, oh, you know, that's slightly awkward. Right. Oh, maybe I quite like you. So yeah, there's an attraction to Garen. He's incredibly impressive. He's incredibly important.
He's incredibly racist.
He's got his problems. No, what I've always thought about Kat and Garen is that Kat can look at Garen and go, he'd make a Noxian, like a good one, you know, a really good one.
mean, he had a moment in the novella when he was like fighting his Noxian bestie, and the Noxian bestie was telling him like, "Why won't you just like join Noxus? You would be perfect here," and blah blah. So yeah.
And it's true. Same for Lux.
Look.
Yeah, we'll get in there. We'll get in there. So we're gonna have this conversation. So no, it's like, you know, yeah, she fancies him a bit, and she had a moment, but it was a moment. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you know, the orchestra didn't like swell and like, you know, like rose petals fell down from the sky sort of thing. It was just, in her world, she has been so driven and so preoccupied with all these things going on. She's been wounded, she's been betrayed, she's been, all this stuff. She was sent to kill the king in an impossible death trap. You know, all this kind of thing. Who can she trust and all that? And she had a moment in the middle of the heat of battle where she didn't think about anything and just kind of responded. And that's all that is. So yes, she fancies him a bit, but it's not, we should get married tomorrow. Like, it's a bit, and because of the way comics works, the more space you put on the page, the more importance it has. Whereas with film, it's like, you know, how long's the shot, it's how big the page is. So I get that it looks like her world just changed.
Yeah, like, it kind of felt like she was having an out-of-body moment of thinking about...
I want to know what love is. Which wasn't... it's not meant to be that, but what it is meant to do is go, there's something there. And if we happen to explore that down the line, here's a seed that's planted in her mind about it.
Does that mean, well, you're talking about how like she was like in the moment she was not thinking and she was like in a different headspace.
She just didn't have to think about it.
Yeah.
She just felt something.
So where does it put Drann? Are there roommates?
Drann and Kat are really great pals.
Oh, okay, I see.
They're really great pals who've known each other a long time and have had a complicated relationship. In my head, right?
Oh, okay.
This is all in my head. This is not official or anything because I just made this shit up.
Right.
So no, I had, shall we say, a thought about the nature of their relationship in the past. But that would be different to the nature of the relationship now. So that's probably all I'll say. But when it comes down to, like, you know, hey, I like queer stuff because I'm biased. But with those two, it's really a focus on their friendship. I really wanted to, like, there's been points where I've really gone back and forward on sort of like how to portray the nature of that relationship between the two. But it really was a case of like, no matter what their past is, they are friends who love each other. And I like to see that, like, in, like, you know, I love my best friend who I don't get to see very often anymore because I happen to live on a different continent. But yeah, it sucks, doesn't it?
It does.
But that love between them is something that I just wanted to feel genuine. And no matter what path it took them to get there, yeah, that's what I wanted to focus on more than anything.
Actually, like what you're saying about the love between like two best friends is completely understandable, because the way that I was seeing Drann's and Katarina's relationship was very similar to my relationship with my best friend, and how I would literally break anyone's kneecaps for her if anything happens. Like, I completely understood where she was coming from, and the way that she was like there for her.
And she did.
Yeah, she did.
She literally, well, yeah, because when she says, I may have broken like the odd leg here and there to find, like, she's not joking. She's just not joking.
Yeah, me neither.
She really would. But no, it is like I didn't. It really came down to, and it wasn't something where it was like I felt worried about broaching that sort of subject. It was more, it was a choice,
right.
And it was like something where, again, I felt comfortable. I could have gone to IPS and started having conversations if that's what we want to do. But it really was a choice of like, no, I want to focus on the friendship. I want to focus on no matter what the past is, and I want it to feel like these are two people who just love each other as friends, and would do anything for each other.
When I when I saw Katarina and Lux together.
Yes.
At first, like the moments I see Lux, like my body just like it like converts.
Yeah, I know.
Convulses.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you shiver.
Yeah,
at the mention of her name.
I dislike Lux so much, and I have a whole beef with her, and
sure, I know.
A beef that is fixable when it comes to her character development. So like, if in the future she will have a specific character development, I will probably change my mind. So it's like I'm not that like tunnel visioned when it comes to this stuff. It is a fantasy world after all, and good writing is good writing. So
I've heard. I don't know.
So far, the problem that I've had with Lux is the fact that she was just a spoiled Nepo baby. That was completely oblivious to what was happening around her. And
I'm agreeing with what you're saying. Not that I agree that it's true what you're saying. Just to be clear.
And
but it's kind of true what you're saying.
And the fact that she was fully aware of what was happening to mages, and didn't care to do anything about that until it actually came to her doorstep.
I think.
In the Mage Seeker game, for example, when you go to see where Silas was held underneath, like the Mage Seeker compound, there is a hallway within a hallway within a hallway within a hallway, and it's just hallways that are full of mages who are suffering, of children, women, men, older people, like all of them are suffering and being tortured in these places, which means that she would walk through these hallways every single day to go see Daddy Silas to get special magic lessons.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like on the way to get coffee. God, that's
like,
weird. I get you. I think the way I try and look at Lux is that she's somebody who's had her entire life like prescribed. So it's not just where she goes and what she does, it's how she thinks, it's how she perceives, it's everything else. And breaking that sort of perspective isn't something you can do easily. And so whether it's as quick as maybe we would like it to be, or maybe it's as quick as she could be in the circumstances. And I think that the lean towards negativity in that is because it's this, she was scared to until it affected her. It is a very selfish sort of like, but there's also she's trying to live up to the family and the expectations they have of her and what have been set to her. So it's not in. Yes, but with that, there also comes the idea of living for others.
Right.
Of like, you live your life. She's lived a life for her family.
Yeah.
And has continued to do so. So it's not entirely that reach for selfish reasons. Of course she's afraid and all that, but I think she overcomes that fear in a way that is pretty brave. But it is a case of she's been living her life for a different, like for her family. And again, it's very different to Kat because her family has been brutal. and but she still had to come to. I mean, the comic is about her coming to the realization that she needs to stop listening to her dad so much. Thank you very much.
And with Lux,
and she needs to trust herself.
And with Lux, it was pretty much the same, because like when Katarina came,
weird that, isn't it?
Yeah. So like when Katarina actually met up with Lux, she said the one thing that I was waiting for her to say. Like, this is all I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for her to admit that she is a privileged brat and that she should be doing something about it. And now she is finally doing something about it, because she cares about 𝗳𝗶𝘱 as much as Katarina cares about Noxus, which is why Katarina said that she can be a Noxian.
It's almost as if trying to make a parallel between the two.
Right.
No, yeah, it really is a case of just going, like, Kat's had a similar journey. And Kat's awesome. Yeah. Like, it's hard to say Kat's not awesome. Yeah. I hope. And so having her next to Lux, who is on a similar path to Kat, and in some ways even more important and pivotal to a future of her people than Kat is. Right. So to have them two, I'm talking like I'm from home, have those two interact and sort of have a connection and understanding of each other. I really wanted to sort of, again, I never want to write a character who's just there to be, you know. Yeah. They're plot point number 3. Like, I wanted to show the looks that John O'Brien had been setting up and the rest of the team. Right, yeah. The path that she's on, and just reflect that. And reflect that theme of overcoming the situation you're born into. Right. Is something that both Kat and Lux have been doing. It's easier for us to sympathize with Kat because Kat involved, you know, having your brother sent to kill you. Yeah. Whereas Lux is involved nice bed sheets. You know, so it's easier to sort of like look at Lux with disdain. But it's essentially the same path they've been on. It's just they're at different points in it. So yeah. Eventually, so Lux isn't that bad, honest.
Well, I mean, again, I'm still waiting for the part where she stops thinking about herself and
I think she's
and acknowledge I really Silas and like what he had gone through, because like what really bothered me about the Lux comic was like the fact that Silas was essentially turned into some sort of villain, and she kept trying to vilify him because like Silas, we were friends. Sure. Why would you why would you try to get away from the guillotine?
Like, one of the most uncomfortable positions to be in is to be in the middle between two people or ideas that you care about. And she was in that and just wanted everybody to be okay. Right. You know, if there's an argument between friends going on, you try and get in the middle of them and go, that's essentially Lux in her book, which is like, I've got this side and I know this is wrong and I know this is awful, but these are still my family and people I love, and like I'm trying to live up to an expectation that I still don't. I'm not sure she fully understood all the ramifications of it, but now is doing that. And then on the other side, you got like someone you see as an honest person who has suffered terribly in an undeserved manner. And so there's these two sides that she's trying to sort of like, you know, referee in her mind and in her heart, and doesn't always do a great job of it. But I think by the end of the Lux comic, the main thing is that she asserts she's made a choice as Kat had already done, really. It's just Kat had already made the choice of believing in the Noxus she believed in. She just needed to believe in herself being the embodiment of that, which she is. And Swain just says, of course you are. And with Lux, it's that she needed to have that confirmation of, no, I need this to be the 𝗳𝗶𝘱 that I want it to be, rather than the one that it is, because I didn't think there was an option. and now she knows.
I think there's also that aspect of maturity.
Yeah,
the fact that
completely.
Katarina, when she faced Talon, and she understood why he came to kill her. She wasn't mad at him for that. She was disappointed, but she wasn't mad because she understood, because she was in that position before, and she understood where he was coming from.
Yeah.
So she didn't make it about herself. She wasn't like offended by it, and like she didn't like hold any grudges.
Oh, she was upset.
To a certain extent, but like
she wasn't happy.
But it's not like she like made a whole thing out of it. With Lux, for example, though, when like it was with Silas, she kept blaming him for like, you outed me to all these people. Now everybody knows that I'm a mage, and it's like, ma'am, read the room.
Maybe that's not the best response.
Like, what do you mean?
Let's just say, if Lux's journey was as Kat's has been, and of course with Kat is about trauma. Kat's is about personal trauma. And Lux is to a degree, but it's something that she's realizing how it's affecting her. Whereas Kat's known this for,
Yeah.
Dad didn't think I did a good job. Oh, is that a blade heading to my head? Like, is not a great way to live. So having there needs to be a different sort of path for these characters to go on their journey. And if Lux is a bit more stumbling and a bit more imperfect, I actually think that's necessary.
Yes.
Because if not, then they're all the same character.
Exactly, that would be the exact same story. Which is why currently I dislike her, and I expect that in the future she will get her redeeming moment where I will actually be able to
one day
acknowledge her.
One day we'll look back at this conversation and we'll laugh.
No, because you see, it's really funny when you think about it, because essentially Katarina knows some stuff about Garen Crownguard. Like she knows things about her. She's an assassin, she's a professional, she knows her shit.
Yeah.
But it was really
funny.
She's
been informed.
Yeah, but the funny thing was, like, to see her, the way that she was interacting with Lux and the way that she was interacting with Garen. And at this point, I'm like, why Garen? Why pick the brother when Lux is literally, like, you guys can trauma bond, and, like, be together.
Yeah, there was quite a few people shipping Lux and Kat.
Yeah, my ship has sailed from that one moment.
I was like, oh, well, I get it. I do. I do understand it. But I was kind of like, okay, cool. Yeah. But no, it's more, the Kat Garen thing is partly because of, one, just, I want to pay off some stuff for players that's been around for a long, long time.
Right, yeah.
And this isn't again, like, in my own completely personal opinion, Kat and Garen does not end well. Like, oh my God. Like, hey, as they after a full session of enjoyment with each other, they're like, oh, by the way, what were you doing on that rooftop where I met you?
Funny that you're asking.
So, do you want lunch? So and the other thing is Kat, just tell him.
Oof, I can't wait for that moment.
No, she'll just tell it. She's like, yeah, I had a job to do. What was the job? The king.
Oh, I need to see this. I need to see that with my own eyes. I need to see the little panel of Katarina breaking it down to him.
She could genuinely go to Garen and go, look, from where I understood, that was an imposter anyway, or did you a favor?
Yeah, straight up. She won't be sorry about it. She has no reason
to.
Oh,
no. No, of course not. She wouldn't be sorry. He was a bastard who kept his people down and treated them terribly.
Exactly.
And all monarchies should be destroyed, from her point of view.
Yes.
Not from my point of view. I don't think that at all.
Oh.
But because God save the king. He doesn't really need a lot of help. But no, it's a case of just from a Noxian perspective, just the idea of monarchy is like an anathema.
Right.
It's like, how dare you? She's not going to feel regretful for what she did.
No.
She's going to put it in a way to, if they ever have this conversation, which would end in lots of steel flying. You know, she did what needed to be done.
Yeah.
And actually, it's for the betterment of 𝗳𝗀cie.
Yeah. The idea of Katarina and Garen having this conversation, and Garen, who was like always obsessed with this ideal of mages being a certain way, even though he knew that Lux was a mage since like
yeah,
day
he
one.
knew deep down it was the whole denial thing.
And then like knowing exactly what's going on, like you're in a vanguard, you know what's going on with the mage seekers, you know what they're doing is not alright, and you yourself chose to let the people live in a lie.
Yeah, there's a certain
it was
awful
a mage and not a demon because they don't need to know the truth. Like,
there's a certain thing where I try to look at those is, again, and it's similar to Lux's, there's a certain, like, you know, human element of not everybody at every minute of the day can bring all the walls crashing down. Like, you know, especially when they're the only walls you know. Like, 𝗳𝗀cie is not exactly the most sort of, like, you know, outgoing.
They're in a bubble. They have no idea
people.
what's going on around.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of shelter and closet involved. People understanding the effect that they can have and the importance that they can have. You have to not believe that to start with to get to that point.
Right.
And so that's the same with Garen. It's the same with Kat. And Garen's still at the place of like, hey, my best friend's on the throne now. Mm-hmm. The person whose job it is, whose life means, like, has been taught generation to generation that this is what matters. Mm-hmm. And without this, everything will fall and everything will go to ruin.
Right.
So with that sort of like perspective, and of course to, shall we say, people who like you and I may not see things that way. It's like, what are you doing, you idiot? Yeah. Take your shoulder pads off and think for a while. Like, you know, but for someone living in that every second of every day, raised to think this way, raised to the most important thing is your duty and your honor, and what you have to do to make sure that your people survive is to uphold these things that are innately true about 𝗳𝗀cie. There's a lot of convincing oneself of the greater good, and then having that greater good punch you hard in the face and go, oh,
so is he essentially,
this ain't so good?
Is he essentially kind of like Swain in his way of thinking?
Swain's a very unique individual. Like, Swain is very much, he's someone, there is you could make a parallel in that Swain is someone who does bad things for what he thinks are good reasons. Garen isn't someone who actively does that. He thinks he's doing difficult things for the right reasons. Whereas Swain's like, no, this is bad.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'll own it. Yeah. But the thing is, this is a bad thing, and because I do this, 5 people die because I killed them. 25,000 people don't. Yeah. That's the sort of, that's how Swain's brain works. Yeah. Now, is that a good thing? No. Nope. But no. But it's still a case of like, Swain doesn't blink at that choice. He understands it. He's trying to make sure that he feels that choice still. Yeah. Because when he doesn't. Yeah. Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, you know, blood raining from the sky. Which, you know, that's not a good way to wake up in the morning without an umbrella.
It's raining men, but like in bits.
Not hallelujah. Swain has absolute awareness of himself and pretty much everything around him within a 10 square mile radius. Yep. Whereas Garen doesn't. Garen is very much there's a lot of sublimated. Oh God, I'm getting all. I feel like I'm doing a therapy session. There's a lot of sublimated desire to be who he wants to be because he doesn't know quite how. And I think that's why Kat is so attractive to him, is that she's got similar responsibilities. She's got, like, you know, all of this pressure and all the rest of it, but she looks like she's doing it without, like, she looks like she's doing it without a care in the world, and looks great doing it too. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Whereas for him, it's like, how do you do that? Because he looks like, you know, he's carrying a mountain on his shoulders all the time, which it does fit, so that's nice. But you know, it like how that sort of like spirit, that sort of freedom, yet still someone who embodies everything about her people. Like that's incredible to him. That's you know, that's a moth to the flame, and we know what happens when the moth gets to the flame, don't we?
The Veiled One, aka Guile the Noxtali of the Trifarix, is a representative of Noxus's Assassin's Guild. How close are they to Katarina?
Well, at the end of the book, and again, this is just the book in my head, and this isn't saying that this is what's going to be happening going forward. While IPS is like wrangling this IP, like bull horns and trying to steer it in the right direction. The idea is that Swain has set Kat up to be a weapon against the Guile, whoever Guile is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and himself. Yeah, Kat's his in case of emergency, get stabbed.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, he knows if he goes off the rails, it'd be bad. Really? So no, is essentially set Kat up. So Kat is now said the head of the Assassin's Guild that Marcus was. The 𝗳𝗶𝘀cie Assassin's Guild. Not that she's going to be using that name very often now. So she has power, and she's got a job to do, and she's got to clean out the trash. So that's how sort of like ending it, and that was just to simply put her into a position where look the effect that she can have on the society around her. She's important. She has a gravitas when it comes down to just who she is and what she can do, but also her purpose. She is someone with a terrifyingly powerful sense of purpose. And once she's got that, she does not let go of that.
Right.
And the only way to stop her is to do stuff, is to kill her. And there are very few people on the planet who can even try. And that's all that is. That's just like, you know, hey, how can we show the way that Swain thinks on that four-dimensional chess way? But still being honest. It's not like he's like, you know, oh, I can use her. It's like, yeah, of course, but she's great. Yeah. And absolutely important for Noxus, and I believe in her, and like, you know, I know that Noxus is safe in her hands when she takes the daggers out of them anyway. But it's still a case of, no, there's things that need to be done, and Swain is somebody who knows that, but Kat does too.
Is Katarina kind of like Darius, like Swain's Darius?
In my head, completely in my head. There's Swain, and then there's the two sides. And there's Kat and there's Darius. And Darius takes care of on the field.
Right.
And to me, Darius is fascinating because it's not just, hey, I'm going to turn up and chop your head off. Like, it's not that kind. It's like, I imagine Darius speaks like so many different languages because he's you know, he doesn't just turn up and kill people. He turns up and makes it clear it's best if they didn't do things that led to him killing people. And just him turning up is enough for people to go, yeah, you know what, I think joining Noxus is a really good idea, don't you? Like, so like Darius is really fascinating to me on the one side, and Kat is equally so on the other. And they're like balancing, they're like just different aspects of Noxus, with Swain being that central sort of like, you know, glue and terrifying larger perspective. that he has, the global perspective that he has.
Does Katarina know about LeBlanc?
In detail, no.
She just knows about.
He
one
knows
lady.
there's some bad stuff occurring, and how much detail Swain has imparted to her for her safety as much as anything else. Because there's a certain game being played.
Right, yeah. There's 5D
between...
chess going on there. Yeah.
It's all over the place.
We're
and
just part
like
of the
one
game.
might say, and I hopefully hinted at that, and trying to, even though LeBlanc is not in the book, she's not in there, but she kind of is. But she kind of is. And like the idea of like him going to get this power, and the Pale Lady and so on. But the idea being, Swain stopped what seems like being LeBlanc, who was manipulating the family du Couteau,
right?
And it had essentially corrupted Marcus, and was going to do a bad thing, but Swain stopped her. Or you could say, yes, Swain got sent on a wild goose chase, and it was set up for 3 or 4 years, just to get him focused somewhere else for a little while. Like you could look at it like that if you want. If you wanted to. I mean, if you wanted to.
This was an amazing discussion.
I like talking about this stuff.
Me too. We can sit here and ramble for literally like 3 more hours if we want to. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Thank you. Like the coverage you did of the comic as we're going along was really fun. And some of your cosplay of Drann was fantastic. Thanks to Molly and Sabrina and Rebecca, Marissa, everybody who worked on the book, for the IPS folks for their support and everything else, and of course Riot Forge, who wouldn't have done it unless they'd have said, "Hey, you know what? We like stories. Do you want to do one?" And so yeah, no, it's been. Hopefully, at some point, I'll get to do something along these lines again. I do it once every, I don't know.
That would be amazing.
6 or 7 years. But no, I've got to go back, and I've got to do my day job now. I'm doing that whole Project L thing, which is
the very, very secretive Project L that no one knows anything about.
Yeah, it's so secretive. I don't even know what the L stands for.
Wow, for real? You don't even know?
No, I'm making that up. No. I'm just full of shit. That's I got to work on this, and I'm so happy with how players have responded to it. And I also get to be working with it's just stupid how smart and talented the people are that they let me in the room with.
That's the worst imposter syndrome I've ever seen in my life. I thought I was bad, but no.
Hey, it's not a syndrome. It's a hobby.
It's a hobby. I'll tell you what. Your work brought us all immense amount of joy. Whether you like it to admit it or not, I don't really care at this point.
Don't make me feel good. This lump of coal that I have here starts getting like freaked out and stuff.
And I really hope that in the future we'll get to see more stuff from you. And that I'll get to sit down with you like this and discuss what is it that goes through your crazy mind.
When a thought goes through my head, it's the loneliest journey in North America. So no. But no, this has been really fun. Thank you, Dinka.
Thank you.